SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, case closed. Dam Street murder suspect escapes justice through suicide as police close in.
This sub-inspector, he had an affair with this woman. As a result of that affair, we believe that the crime had been committed.
No rest. Iranathivu Island residents stage protest over government's burial site choice, as experts say it's only a temporary move. Do your bit. DG Health urges the public to vaccinate and help bring down cases and deaths.
Most of the case load is between 30 to 60. To vaccinate above 60, that reduce the mortality. I will earnestly request to get your vaccination.
Ruling the skies, Sri Lankan and Indian flyers put on an exciting public display for the Sri Lanka Air Force's 70th anniversary. All this and much more coming up on this Wednesday, the 3rd of March 2021.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando. Moving on to your top story for tonight. The police have been able to identify the murder victim whose remains were found inside an abandoned travelling bag discovered at Dam Street as 30-year-old Kuruvita resident Dilini Yasoda Jayasuriya. Further investigating teams were also able to identify the suspected murder of 52-year-old sub-inspector attached to the Buttala police station. However, as police closed in on the suspect at his residence in Badalkumbura, he had escaped into a forest and committed suicide before capture. Conflict in an extramarital affair between the suspect and the victim has been established as the motive. An unidentified body was inside a travelling bag abandoned in front of a shop in Dam Street, Colombo. Inside the bag, police found a decapitated body of a young woman. The discovery launched an extensive investigation involving several police teams, including the Dam Street police, to identify the victim and track down the murder suspect. After checking CCTV footage from the locale, police personnel discovered that the body had been transported on board a Hangwella to Colombo bus by a sub-inspector attached to the Buttala police.
We have traced the suspect. He is a sub-inspector attached to Buttala police station. However, he was on leave at the time of the incident. Accordingly, we send a special police team to arrest him to his residence situated in Badalkumbura police area. At that time, he had left the house when the police teams reached his residence. Thereafter, we conducted special operations in the area where he had escaped.
Around 5:30 this morning, a resident of the area had discovered the remains of the suspect who had committed suicide by hanging. A vial of poison was also found nearby. The sub-inspector had been identified as 52-year-old father of 3 Adhikari Mudiyanselage Premasiri. After searching suspect's home, the police discovered a letter written by the suspect to his wife. In the letter, the suspect confessed that he could not break free from an illicit affair he was carrying on with the victim, the daughter of his friend, and that he had not planned to murder her.
Badalkumbura police are conducting investigation into the death of the suspect, a sub-inspector, and in addition to that, Dam Street police are conducting further investigation into the female dead body. We are trying to trace the head of the dead body. So far, we have no information about the head. It has been revealed that this sub-inspector was functioning as a police sergeant in Ratnapura area. At that time, he had created an affair with this particular woman deceased. As a result of that affair, we believe that the crime had been committed and we are taking a stern action against police perpetrators. We don't tolerate criminal activities, bribery or corruption in respect of police officers under any circumstances.
During investigations, it was learned that on the 28th of last month, the suspect and the victim checked into a hotel in Pahalahangwalla at around 10 p.m. During their stay at the lodge, the suspect was seen leaving and returning to the hotel twice by himself and once in the company of the victim. During investigations, further CCTV footage captured the suspect purchasing a knife and a travelling bag before checking out of the hotel. The suspect had then returned to the lodge and had packed the bag with the victim's remains. Following news reports of the discovery of the remains at Dam Street, the suspect had reportedly telephoned the hotel and had questioned staff whether they intend to share his information with the police. With that, a special police team inspected the room used by the duo today. Police sources revealed that the suspect had cleaned the room thoroughly after committing the murder. Sources revealed that police scene of crime officers were only able to spot a few drops of blood through chemical tests. The room was also inspected by the Avisaville acting magistrate. Meanwhile, police have been able to identify the victim as 30-year-old Kuruvita resident Dilini Yasoda Jayasuriya. It was also revealed that the victim's brother is a local government politician who revealed that she had left home for a purported pilgrimage to Adams Peak. With that, family members were called to the Dam Street police station today to identify the victim's remains, as the police are yet to locate her missing head.
Sri Lanka's best health insurance with the fastest claim settlement. Soft Logic Life.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
With a petition having been filed by the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit last week, seeking a court order to prevent environmental damage by proposed private sector development of the Muthurajavela wetland, the case was taken up before the Court of Appeal today. The Attorney General's Department has been instructed to inquire into and present facts to court by the 9th of March. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Environment has responded to the Cardinal's objections to the placing of the disputed area under the Urban Development Authority, stating that the move was done on financial strength grounds, as compensation will have to be paid up to private land owners.
In a statement released last week, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, stated that the Minister of Environment, the State Minister of Wildlife and the Central Environmental Authority had broken their promises of preventing any environmentally damaging development projects in the Muthurajavela wetlands. The Cardinal also expressed his displeasure over the placing of large swathes of the Muthurajavela wetland and some surrounding villages under the Urban Development Authority, which he said was part of their broken pledges. In the announcement, the Cardinal also called for the removal of private property signs placed around the area in question and for the area to be redesignated as a wildlife conservation zone. Meanwhile, a statement issued by the Ministry of Environment has stated that the area was placed under the Urban Development Authority's purview on the instructions of the President. The ministry statement adds that the decision was taken in order to better protect and conserve the valuable Muthurajavela ecosystem. The ministry also states that the Urban Development Authority was chosen because it is the only authority that has the financial capacity to pay compensation to private landowners when undertaking such a large conservation program. Meanwhile, a petition filed by the Archbishop of Colombo and the Centre for Environmental Justice, seeking an order suspending all illegal construction and development activities in the area, was taken up in the Court of Appeal today. President's Counsel Shamil Pereira, appearing for the Archbishop of Colombo, told court that illegal clearing and development activities in the Muthurajavela wetland zone are still being carried out. On this basis, the court was requested to issue an interim injunction restraining such activities. Representing the Attorney General's Department, Additional Solicitor General Priyantha Navanna reminded the court that an interim injunction issued by the Supreme Court in 2017 prohibiting the dumping of garbage into the Muthurajavela Conservation Zone still remains in force today. However, President's Counsel Shamil Pereira argued that the injunction only prohibits the dumping of garbage in the area and does not halt illegal construction and development projects from being carried out. The two-judge bench, comprising of Justices Arjuna Obesekara and Maya Dunnakorea, then directed the Attorney General to inquire into the current situation in the Muthurajavela area and present facts to court on the 9th of March. The petition is to be taken up again on the 30th of March.
Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena says that all necessary guidelines for the transportation and burial of COVID-19 victims have been prepared and will be issued during the day. He also revealed that the decision to use the Iranathiu Island for burials is a temporary measure as the island's residents stage protest against the government's move. The residents claim that burying infected remains on the island could pose a serious threat to their water resources. The Gazette notification giving the green light to go ahead with burials of COVID-19 deceased was issued by Minister of Health Pavitra Vanyarachi on the 25th of February. Several days following the Gazette, the Ministry of Health Technical Committee studying the issue identified the Iranathiu Island as a suitable burial site, which was announced by Cabinet spokesperson Kehelia Rambukwella yesterday. Soon after, residents of Iranathiu Island staged a protest at the Iranamata Nagar village, objecting the government's decision. The protesters say that burying COVID-19 remains poses a threat to the precious water resources used by the island's 165 families. They add that this could become a serious threat to the health and safety of residents, since no COVID-19 infection has been reported on the island so far. The residents have also decided to lodge a complaint with the Human Rights Commission on the issue. Further, the protesters also took steps to close several holes dug on the island to be supposedly used for burial purposes. With that, at a media briefing today, Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena stated that necessary guidelines for burial procedures have been prepared and will be released today. He also revealed that the burials on Iranathiu Island are only a temporary measure.
We have prepared the guidelines for these purposes, the burial and the standard operation of procedures for transportation of these COVID-19 positive dead corpses. So at the moment, we have identified to bury as an initial measure these COVID-19 positive dead bodies at Iranathiu Island in northern peninsula. This is a temporary measure and the transportation will be done by the expenses of the government. 2 vehicles will be leaving, one from Colombo JMO office and one from Velikanda Base Hospital every day at 5:30 am, and it will reach most probably the Iranathiu Island by afternoon, and with the supervision of area MOH and the PHI and the police, with the witnessing by 2 relatives of each body, will be buried at this Iranathiu Island.
Meanwhile, addressing the same media briefing, member of the Technical Committee at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Channa Pereira said that the decision was based on a report prepared by a subcommittee in support of recommendations of the main Technical Committee that burials can be carried out with low risk. Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena says that people between 30 to 60 years of age group have been prioritized for vaccinations due to a high case load among the age group. He added that a high number of deaths have been reported of people over 60 years of age, placing them high in the priority list as well, and that targeting these groups can have a major effect on cases and mortality.
317 COVID-19 infections were detected across the island yesterday, with all of them reportedly locally transmitted cases. The positive cases were detected out of a total of 9,947 PCR tests that were conducted yesterday. In the district-wise breakdown, the Ratnapura district accounted for the highest number of 73 infections, while the Colombo district reported 63. The other notable district numbers yesterday were 57 infections reported from Gampaha, 29 from Gaul, 21 from Kandy and 14 from Puttalam, while the remaining 13 other districts accounted for the balance 61 infections. Meanwhile, the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19 reported 335 cases detected so far today. On the vaccination front, 44,546 people in identified priority groups received the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday. This brought the total number of people to have received their first jabs to 553,821. In the meantime, State Minister of COVID Disease Control, Dr. Sudarshini Fernandopulle announced that Sri Lanka will receive its first batch of COVAX facility vaccines this weekend. A consignment of 264,000 doses is expected to arrive on Sunday, the 7th of March. Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services Dr. Asela Gunawardena reiterated the rationale behind the prioritizing of the 30 to 60-year age group in the vaccination program.
For the community, we have identified the most high-risk GN division in Colombo CMC area, Colombo Regional Director of Health Services and Gampaha Regional Director of Health Service. These areas has been identified according to the past statistics where the most number of cases has been reported. Why we have selected above 30 is in Sri Lankan scenario, the most of the case load is between 30 to 60 and above 60 case load is less. And if you vaccinate above 60, that is actually reduce the mortality. So we want to reduce the transmissibility also. We will be spreading this vaccination program to the other districts in future. So we will be going to the next to the Kalutara and then to the rest of the country. The general public, I will earnestly request to go to the vaccination center with your identity card and get registered there and then get your vaccination. Don't get panic because we are going to give the vaccination for the all registered people in the GN division or maybe temporarily residing people, both categories. Our target is to vaccinate the whole population. So there may be people who couldn't get the vaccination on time, but don't worry, we are going to have mop-up vaccination clinics later. When you are going to the vaccination center, if there is elderly, please give the priority to the elderly people and give them a chance to get vaccinated early.
In more news, 417 more COVID-19 patients recovered and were discharged from hospitals during the day, increasing total recoveries to 80,437.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
නිවසේ මෙවැනි මතු පිට රැඳෙන විස බීජ 99.9%ක්ම විනාශ කරන විම් ක්ලීනර්ස්.
Welcome back. In more news, the Inspector General of Police has been instructed by the country's Attorney General to arrest all the Paliagoda police personnel involved in the assault of a law student at the station recently. With 4 police officers already interdicted for the assault, the suspects are to be charged under the Penal Code and the Torture Act when they are produced in court.
The Attorney General has directed the Inspector General of Police to arrest all police officers involved in the alleged assault on a law student at the Paliagoda police station. Accordingly, the police personnel are to be produced in court on charges under the Penal Code and Torture Act, the Attorney General's Coordinating Officer State Counsel Nishara Jairatna revealed. The victim was identified as the son of former Central Province Governor, President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratna, and the brother of Attorney-at-Law Charita Gunaratna. Reports revealed that up to 10 police officers had assaulted him when he arrived at the Paliagoda police station to deliver food to a detained suspect. 4 police officers, including 3 constables and 1 inspector, were later interdicted over the assault. When the case was taken up on Monday, the Colombo Magistrates Court directed the IGP to assign the investigation into the assault to a separate special investigation unit. The order was given after taking into account a request made by the legal counsels of both parties that the case be removed from the Paliagoda police's purview to ensure an impartial and independent investigation.
Attorney-at-Law Hijaz Hizbullah and principal of the controversial madrasa school Mohammad Shakil have been further remanded until March 18th by the Colombo Fort Magistrate today. According to Criminal Investigation Department findings, the Attorney General named Hizbullah a suspect of misconduct of engaging in other means of inciting racist animosity or malicious or hostile feelings between different ethnic or religious groups under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Hizbullah is also charged with incitement of national, religious or racial hatred compounded by incitement to hostility or violence as per the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights Act. On February 17th, the Attorney General directed the IGP to name Hizbullah as a suspect in these offences and obtain a statement from him before producing him before a magistrate. The principal of the controversial madrasa school, Mohammad Shakil, was also arrested on the Attorney General's orders for abetting and conspiring with Hizbullah. The Parliamentary Committee on Public Finances has approved 2 extraordinary Gazette notifications seeking to extend the duration of 2 Strategic Development Act projects. The committee drew attention to one of the projects in the Colombo city which has faced cost overruns due to a 4 to 5 year construction delay.
The Parliamentary Committee on Public Finances has approved 2 extraordinary Gazette notifications on duration extensions for 2 projects falling under the Strategic Development Act No. 14 of 2008 submitted by the Ministry of Finance. One such project is a 75-room city hotel located in Colombo 3, which committee member State Minister Susil Premachand pointed out had failed from the very outset. The committee also revealed that the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, Litro Gas Limited and the Employees Provident Fund had spent up to 20 billion rupees, of which 4 billion rupees had been spent on settlement payments to a Malaysian company alone. The committee also stated that the hotel, which currently has only 16 floors, would need at least another 4 billion rupees to complete. The committee also stated that the then management of the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation remained directly responsible for the 4 to 5 year project construction delays that resulted in the massive cost overruns. The committee chairman charged the Board of Investment for not having paid close attention to the project and requested that a project feasibility study be submitted to the committee soon. Meanwhile, the committee also met with officials of the central bank, who announced that the bank has been able to achieve a savings balance of $323 million as of 19 February 2021 through its special deposit account scheme. In response, the committee told the bank officials that such beneficial deposit schemes need to be publicized, as its 2% interest rate is beneficial both to the country and for expatriate Sri Lankans as well.
We'll return after this short commercial break. Bear with us. Welcome back. In more news, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa instructed officials of the Urban Development Authority and Ministry of Housing to take necessary steps to overcome non-cooperation issues between state institutions that result in important projects being delayed. He made these comments during a meeting with the officials of the UDA and Ministry of Housing worked off during the day.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa met with officials of the Ministry of Housing and the Urban Development Authority today. During the meeting, the attention of the Prime Minister was drawn towards delayed projects, where he pointed out that non-cooperation between state institutions are to blame. With that being the case, the PM instructed the officials to take necessary measures to overcome such situations in the future. Further discussions have been held with officials on the relocation of the Velikada prison and the development of the Mathura Fort and the Kandy public car park. In the meantime, another discussion was held by the Prime Minister with officials of the University Grants Commission at Temple Trees yesterday on fulfilling basic infrastructure facilities required for universities. During the meeting, the chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, said that an additional amount of 5 billion rupees is required for the management of the physical and human resources of the university system in its current situation. What's more, Minister of Education Professor G.L. Pires, who also participated in the meeting, said there is a need for a program for students who failed to obtain university entrance in the Z-score system even after obtaining excellent results at the advanced levels.
Sri Lankan and Indian Air Force pilots performed a breathtaking aerobatic display today in commemoration of the Sri Lanka Air Force's 70th anniversary celebrations. The air show will continue tomorrow and the day after for the enjoyment of the public in the skies of Galle Green from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Established on the 2nd of March 1951, the Sri Lanka Air Force marked its 70th anniversary yesterday, and to mark this ceremony, an aerobatic display took place in Galle Green this afternoon. The event was attended by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who was joined by Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Gopal Bagle, Defence Secretary Retired General Kamal Gunaratne and the commanders of the 3 armed forces, as well as the Chief of the Indian Air Force.
ගුවන් හමුදා ජදය සම සන්තකේ රඳවා ගනිමින් ඉතා ගාම්භීරව ගමන් ගන්නා බෙල් 212 ගුවන් යානයක්. එන අනතුරුව ගමන් ගන්නේ Y12 වර්ගයේ සැහැල්ලු මගී ප්‍රවාහන ගුවන් යාන 3යි.
The air show was also joined by Indian Air Force aircraft that put on an elaborate aerobatic display for members of the public. The Indian Air Force's Sarang helicopter display team, the Surya Kiran display team, Tejas fighter aircraft, Tejas trainers and Dornier maritime patrol aircraft were on display during the show.
With red eyes and positions for the next maneuver.
By the Sarang helicopter display team of the Indian Air Force, ladies and gentlemen, coming in from your right. The team is maintaining the wine glass formation while raising a toast on the historic in the sky. Sarang's approaching in India formation from your right. Bank of Sri Lanka. Now you see the reaction, the ferocious powerful and pulsating Sarang heart. Ladies and gentlemen,
The aerobatic display will continue until the 5th of March from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
tell me and clap for us if you found us to be a mesh. Thank you so much.
In business news, according to a central bank report, the land valuation indicator for the Colombo district has increased by 4.6% on year-on-year basis to 145.2 during the second half of 2020. However, the percentage level of increase in the indicator has been reported as being in line with the decline trend observed over the recent periods. In addition, the LVI recorded an increase of 2.5% for the second half of 2020 compared to the first half of 2020. All LVI sub-indicators, namely residential, commercial and industrial, contributed to the overall increase. The residential LVI recorded the highest annual increase of 4.7%, followed by the industrial LVI and commercial LVI. Sri Lankan stocks fell for the third consecutive day today, ending down 2.5% on continued selling pressure. The All Share Price Index fell 150.29 points to close at 7,193.9, while the S&P SL Index of more liquid stocks fell 73.2% to close at 2,836.75. Here's a brief report on today's market performance.
We have seen the market has entered a sort of a downtrend, with today the index declining by a large 150 points as the market has gone into a 3-day downtrend on a continuous basis now. So with this, we can say that the selling pressure is gradually increasing in the market as the SPI has now reached a 7-week low, as the index has dropped below the 7,200 mark as well. So with this, we are seeing a lot of selling pressure coming, especially from the retail community. Sizably large quantities coming in, specifically in the retail favorite counters, which are bringing down the index and the overall market with it. We saw the turnover levels dominated today, especially by the capital goods sector counters. Turnover levels have slightly improved to 2.4 billion levels.
The rupee ended weaker at 196 to 197 rupees against the US dollar today, after closing at 196 rupees and 50 cents to 197 rupees and 50 cents to the dollar yesterday. The rupee has fallen from 186 rupees and 40 cents in December 2020 to 194 rupees and 40 cents to the dollar in January 2021. Here's how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanella Fernando. Have a good night.